Hi there, welcome back to Not Another Budget. I'm Nicole, this is Mr. Bowie. Because we haven't had enough tech issues already trying to film this. On this channel, I'm attempting to cash budget my way out of debt and fix several years of financial misbehaviour. I'm also trying to navigate a period of reduced income on my standard wage, and that has been ongoing now for about 3 to 4 months. That's because I've been on phased return, or I've been off sick, receiving a combination of 50% contractual pay and statutory sick pay. It means that as a solo household, and it's not quite a solo income household because I have other things I can do to bring in income, which is why I really struggle when I say in a title or anything like that it's a solo income household. It's not. I'm a solo person household. So as a result of that, if anything happens, it's on me to resolve financially. Now, with luck, you will have joined me for yesterday's video where I covered this and I looked at ways you can immediately bring in cash if you have a situation cropping up within the next 1 to 2 weeks that requires you to get cash in pretty fast. We're talking not being able to pay your rent or a mortgage payment. We're talking bailiffs knocking at the door. We're talking the car stuck in the garage and you need to get the car out so you can go to work and earn money. We're not talking weddings or holiday payments or things like that. We're talking like down in the weeds. I need to throw myself at this to try and get this done and get this fixed, and then I can just stop and assess my overall situation. And let's say we've assessed the overall situation and you've found yourself in the position that I've been in, where I have had, anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks notice, and me sitting down and looking at my numbers and mapping out my health against my time, against my income, and realizing that it's going to take a couple, or way back in March, 3 to 4 months for my income to even out. Okay, I need to do something about this, and how do I go about doing this? Now, once again, I'm going to do the standard disclaimer because you might not have seen yesterday's video, and it's always worth doing. I am not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. If anything I say resonates with you or taps into how you've been feeling, then that's fantastic. But what you should never do is go away and do something on the basis that Nicole of Not Another Budget has done it. Like I said, I'm a solo income household. I'm a solo person household living in a high cost of living area in rural England. And I don't say where because I'm entitled to some parts of my privacy. But me being a rural household is completely different to an urban city-based household where maybe there are 2 earners with children. I have no dependents. I have the cat who you've just seen at the very start of this video, who is quite a financial burden because of his own poor health. He has got significant health issues and concerns which take a lot of my money each month. And as a result of that, when I get notification that my income is going to be down, it's a massive problem because I have a really expensive burden on me. But you may be watching this as a 2-income household where there are 2 adults working and earning. You may be watching this as the only adult in the household, but you have children and you have dependents. So whilst anything I'm saying may resonate with you, and that is fantastic, and the goal of this video for me is to put what I have done out there, because for a large amount of my adult working life, I have had to lean on strategies like these, and ultimately I'm still here, and I've made it through. I can rent my house independently, which is in a high cost of living area, a fantastic thing to be able to say. I can pay my bills. Yes, I do have debt, and I have problem debt, and I have priority based debt, but I've been able to stay in my house and I have been able to keep things going using techniques like this. I am not currently in the receipt of financial help from family members, so I can't go to them throughout this and haven't been able to go to them for financial help at all. And by financial help, I mean, hi, I've got a £500 shortfall on my wages this month because I have been on a phased return and I've not received full pay. Can I borrow that from you? They're not doing that. And they haven't done that. And whilst offers of help may have been offered from other ways, we'll buy you that tumble dryer that you need. Things like that haven't materialised. So if you find yourself what I call financially alone, then that's what I mean. Okay? Try and reach out to your family and friends to help if you can. And if they can't, then that's also where you kind of need a backup strategy, because your backup also can't be borrowing from family and friends or credit unions or taking on more debt. Now that that is out of the way, we do kind of need to keep in mind yesterday's video, because we kind of need to bring this in, but in a different way. An upcoming expense. This is what I class as an upcoming expense. You may have your own version of this. I'm talking like 2 to 4 months-ish. And it's things like a reduction in wages because you've been off sick. And you know you've been off sick, and you know that you might not get paid for sick pay. So you know you might be down a certain amount of days or a certain amount of time on your income. You might have a loss of job. You might have been given your notice. Now, your notice period, and if I look at the UK specifically, can be 30 days. It can be the end of that working month. I work as a teacher, so I know that my notice period would be August, and I will get paid up until the last day of August. But I know and may find out back in April that I'm losing my job. So it could be that. It could be that you're going to be in receipt of maternity wage and your reduction in maternity pay is about to occur. So let's say you've been paid 100% of your wages, for example, for 5 months, and then you're going to drop down to say 70, and then you're going to drop down even more and drop down even more. It could also be an increase in bills and costs because you're coming to the end of a fixed rate mortgage. You have to your boiler's going and you've got to replace a boiler. You've been advised by your mechanic, for example, that whilst your car is fine for now, you need to replace an exhaust, an engine, or something quite expensive. So it's something that isn't going to immediately happen, but it's going to come up, and you have got to plan for this strategically. And then I have put in life events because it is not easy. And whilst the gut assumption is no, I won't go to that wedding of brother, sister, mum, dad, child because of the financial implication, often the reality of those relationships make those things very, very, very hard. I'm going to reference infamous things like the hen party WhatsApp group, where 20 of you are added to a WhatsApp. And if this resonates with you, let me know. 20 of you are added onto a WhatsApp group because the bride has decided that you are the hens and you are going to join her on this process and support her. And very, very quickly, the costs spiral out of control. On my first ever series of videos, I was facing potentially, thankfully it never materialised, but I was having to budget in and potentially save for wedding costs, where both the wedding and the hen party costs as a bridesmaid was going to be about £2,000. So I have put life events in because I know that depending on your culture, your family circumstance, it's not always possible to completely opt out of those very expensive things that just have a way of sneaking up on you. This upcoming spread, I've tried to be broad and balanced, but I think it's impossible for me to be specific. If I were to be specific, I would have to do a whole series of videos, and maybe in the future I will go ahead and do that, but right now I'm trying to do a broad snapshot. Now, straight off the back, anything I talk about today, you will notice by the end of this that I don't make any reference to childminding or babysitting. That is because it is, as a teacher, as someone who is safeguarding trained, as someone who works with children, I think that you have to be so careful about where children go and spend their time and who looks after them. And the level of accountability you have to have as an adult who looks after children in your care when they are not your children, both emotionally and practically. It's too much for me to go into in a video like this, and there are so many rules and regulations that I am not qualified to talk about despite my training as a teacher. Do I also know, however, and have I been the teenager and the young adult who has babysat mum's friends' kids and got X amount per hour? Yes, of course. Do I know that those options are there and do people take them up? Yes, of course. But I'm not going to advocate for doing that in this video, but I do acknowledge that it does take place, because I would hate to be the person who says, go pick up babysitting, go do this, and something happens not as a result of your fault. An accident happens to a child in your care and something happens, and we have to kind of be grown-ups and acknowledge that, and we have to kind of be the grown-ups in the room and talk about that fact. So babysitting and care of children is not down for that reason. But now that that's out of the way, 10 minutes in, let's actually get talking about what I want to talk about. Now, here is what I would do first of all. I would still incorporate elements of the immediate strategy. If you haven't had an immediate deadline to kind of work to, then there is nothing stopping you from implementing this throughout your period of time. It could be your 4 weeks, it could be your 4 months, but there's nothing stopping you from doing your sofa raid, doing your car boot, selling a bit on online marketplace, having a D-stash, etc., running coupons and sales if you already have online Etsy stores and online eBay stores and things. There's nothing stopping you from doing that, and the beauty of it not needing to be immediate means that actually you can spread this out in a more sustainable way, and you don't have to go hell for leather trying to get this done. You can sit there and go, we're just going to have a sorting out weekend, and we're just going to chuck a load of stuff in Facebook Marketplace, and we're just going to sit on it and see what happens, for example. Or I don't fancy doing a car boot this weekend, I might go to the next one instead. You've got that little bit of flexibility here, but the immediate structure of what should I do can be applied. So that's the first one on my list, but it should also be applied alongside anything else you might want to pick up. You do need to kind of set a target. Now, if I think about the immediate and the contrast there, if it's the bill from the garage to pick up your car, you know exactly what you need to bring in. In the case of myself being on phased return, I knew that I would have kind of at best this amount that I'd be missing from my wages, and at worst this, but there's quite a broad range of money in between there. So I went with I think I'm going to be 500 down, and that's the target I set for myself each month. You might know, for example, that when your maternity drops in percentage, that you are going to be missing X amount of money. So you might decide that you want to save £2,000 or $2,000, and that's going to top that up for a certain amount of time. If you know completely that you are facing a loss of a job and you want to give yourself an extra month to job search, for example, say you literally want to give yourself an extra month of wages so that you can take time to recover from the shock and the grief of losing your job, because I think you do go through a grief process, but also actually the job market's not so great at this time of year in my field. If I give it a month or 2 months, you might want to work on saving that. And certainly as teachers, we have the ability to definitely start work in September if we want to, but depending on where you are in the country, I am a design and technology teacher. There are no jobs in design and technology in my county, the county next to me, up to the north, or to the west at all. It's a 3-hour drive before I find a design and technology job. So I'm in a bit of a scarcity. We're like unicorn farts. We are rare and non-existent. Unless you're living in other parts of the country, and in which case we're needed all the time, everywhere. It very much depends kind of where you're living and where you're working. But set yourself a target and work to that target, and I would go one step further, and if you know you've got months to hit this point, break it down on a month-by-month basis. First of all, can you take on overtime / complementary industry work? And the reason why I've put down complementary industry work is my first proper paying job was working for a holiday park. It's Centre Parks within the UK. And on occasion, the other kind of, and I worked within the hospitality side, the other venues would come round and go, we're a staff member short, does anyone here want to pick up an extra 5 hours after the shift you've already worked plus tips? And quite often I'd go, yeah. Can you jump in depending on the work that you're doing? If your department doesn't have any overtime, but the accompanying department that you are also involved in and are qualified to work for, if they're offering hours, can you jump on and pick that up? I also know I'm saying this against a backdrop of generally overtime in some industries and some areas of the world being cut, but can you pick up overtime? If this is not a loss of a job, but I have got this thing that I need to cover, can you pick up overtime for a month or two? Does that solve the issue? Freelance your skills. I spent most of my adult working life, or most of my 20s, I should say, working as a freelancer. And as a result of working as a freelancer, I was able to sidestep into other areas. I worked and was trained predominantly as a costume designer. And because I'm a costume designer, it means that I could step into theatre, I could step into film, I could go across and help the production design team or the props team or the art department team because I had those skills who were transferable. And in that same vein, if you are trained as an electrician or a construction team, can you sidestep into the film or the theatre industries who also employ not costume, those skills and those craft areas? If you are a sound engineer and you're used to building speakers, can you go work the festival circuit? I know these things are easier said than done, and I know they're not the easiest to find, but those jobs are out there, and that's just a small example. If you are used to if you are a teacher who teaches IT, can you do some web design work for people? Can you do some coding? And inversely, if you are a coder or someone who does web design work, can you teach people how to do that? If you have the ability and look realistically at your skills, what you'll find is that you are far more skilled than A, your job description says you are, and B, than you think you are. So, can you freelance your skills, industry specific? Can you freelance them online? It may take time, but it's not a bad way to go about it. And again, this very much depends on what you're doing, but ultimately, you have a skill and you have knowledge, and it may be something that you need to just refine and pick up and actually say to someone who you trust to be constructively critical but not cruel. Well, what am I good at? What can I do? What are my strengths? Go for coffee with that person. Go down the pub with that person. If you're not sure what skills you have to freelance, well, there will be a freelance space for your skills. For teachers, it might be tutoring alongside our teaching. And I'm trying to use examples of places that I've kind of filled in and done myself, but the chances are there will be something there for you. We have our good old favourite, our side jobs and our odd jobs. This is like cleaning, gardening, tutoring, DIY. There is a local Facebook group which my dad, as a newly retired, taking on a second new career, where it is quote unquote dads doing DIY, and it's dads who for years have done their own plastering or their own painting and decorating, and will come and do those odd jobs, the fixing of this, the X and Y of that, because we can't all afford to go and hire a plumber or a painter or decorator to do this. And quite often you will find yourself picking up those skills. And I know it's silly, but if you're able to cork and seal a sink, a bath, a shower, and someone needs it doing and they can't afford to pay tradespeople and they're prepared to bung 20 quid or $20 your way to do it and cover the cork, I don't want to do this to take away work from those people, but there are people who can't afford to pay those people. It's a real grey area, and this is why this is a really difficult thing to talk about, because it's like, how broad and how specific do I go? Because I've also been on the receiving end of kind of someone going to someone cheaper for my skills, but I would be loath to not mention the fact that, hi, can you come help me fill a van with stuff because I can't afford the £1,300 removals quote, which was what my sister was quoted. So she paid my petrol and bought me coffee and slipped a little bit extra my way, because I'm cheaper than a £1,300 removals van, which she can't afford to do. We've all been there where we've had an expensive quote, and we've also all been there where someone else has said, yeah, I'll do it for you for like nothing. Cleaning, gardening, fairly self-explanatory. You will find on most job websites now people looking for casual cleaners. It's not glamorous work, but if you need to pick it up and do it. Gardening. I'm talking to the people who are of a more mature age here. or I'm talking about the people who are of a more mature age, if you have been gardening for your nan, your granddad, your aunt, your uncle, your mum, your dad, and they are part of a community, put the word out that you're looking for gardening work and do they need any help. You'll come do their garden you'll come do the weeding, you'll come keep them company while they sit there and trim the flower. I don't do gardening, but potter around and then you do this heavy stuff like that. Is there something like that that you can do to try and get that money in? This is where it doesn't quite work for the immediate side, because it might be that you put feelers out and you don't hear back for 2 to 3 weeks, but it's worth doing. Put yourself out there as an odd job person, or put yourself out there as a DIY person, or a willing to do, odd jobs around the place, like all of that. Put yourself out there and do it. Make it known if you are trained as if you are a teacher. Put yourself out there on the read run up to like GCSE times as a tutor, or willing to offer kind of revision resources, etc., etc. Regular eBay car booting. This isn't quite reselling, but I regularly come away from a car boot, even after I've made money, with a full carload, because I just have so much stuff. And if you're in the position where you have so much stuff, or you get the decluttering bug or the destashing bug, just go, every month, every kind of Sunday for like a month, I'm just going to take myself down to the car boots until it's all gone. And try and avoid it's easier to give it to a charity shop, because why can't you get the money? If you want to donate to charity and support charity, do that later. But you get the money for your stuff and give over your Sunday mornings for 4 to 5 weeks. That's separate to reselling. Okay. Second job, even if it's in the short term. We're coming up to the summer, so gig work, Uber Eats, DoorDash, Uber, stuff like that. Hospitality. There will be a boom, I'm sure, particularly if you live around coastal areas, of hotels and food, catering, etc., wedding staff, wedding catering venues, like anywhere where there is a boom of something going on. And let's face it, the summer is a boom of a lot of things. There will be people looking for casual staff, event staff, festivals, country fairs, shows. If they're looking for staff, get yourself down. Are you near a race course? Because they look for casual staff, seasonal staff. And then this one's a little bit unique. You've obviously got your summer camps in the US, but in the UK, quite a lot of cities, particularly university cities, have summer schools where they host international schools and international students. And depending on when they advertise these jobs, it might be a little bit late now in the season, but you might still get something. You could get 6 weeks work to go. Obviously, make sure you pass all your DBS checks and your references are in well order, but you could get 6 to 7 weeks work working for summer schools. And that could either be the hospitality side, or it could be the housekeeping side as well. A lot of hotels will look to take on, and a lot of holiday parks will look to take on extra housekeepers at this time. Go and see if there's anything there. Again, this is very location specific, and it's not meant to be specific to every country and every location, but as a broad view of, is there this thing going on? Could you step in? Is there work for you there? Have a CV ready to go. Okay, I hate the word side hustle. Well, I hate the word hustle specifically, because hustle culture has become something, in my opinion, which is quite harmful, because we do need to look after ourselves whilst we are going about our earning of extra money, because we have to be careful not to burn ourselves out, and we do have to pace ourselves in the long run, because what's the point of hustling so hard that you burn yourself out and you're then unable to earn any more? But for the lack of anything in replacement, because I couldn't think of an appropriate word because I was too tired, side hustle time. Your Etsy, your eBay, your in-person craft fair selling. If you have a particular skill at baking football-themed cupcakes, maybe now is the time to go and start seeing if that's something you can develop. Crafting, artwork, it's something I myself have always had running in the background. Now, granted, I have the complementary skills. I work in fashion. I worked in fashion. I worked in costume. I therefore have the ability to sew, design, and create. I am now a teacher. I can therefore create and design resources and put them available to sell if I wanted to. I have a YouTube channel. Granted, the goal was to never have it be monetized. The goal was to have it there for financial accountability because nothing else was working. But by virtue of the fact that I am monetized and I now receive income from YouTube, it is technically a side hustle. And alongside that, I have savings challenges that I have designed and worked on, and I have budgeting supplies and tools which I'm developing. You might be fantastic at a certain type of artwork, which was something you've not done for years, and all of a sudden you put it up and do it. One thing to be careful of, though, is that this one and the next one is more where you have to potentially put money in, which can be a risk. And therefore, I would not say go ahead and set up a YouTube channel in the hope that you're going to hit monetization. A very small, and we're now talking small percentage of channels ever make it big. And B, to hit the requirements for monetization, to then hit the payout amount, may not happen in your window. I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm also going to have to be realistic and go within our upcoming 2 to 4 month time frame. It may not be possible for you to achieve monetization and pay out to a significant level regularly. Depends what you're talking about. We don't all get lucky in that way. But if you know you've got a particular skill in art that you used to have, okay, go pick up some not expensive acrylic paints and a canvas and paint something and put it out there and see what happens. But this option and then this option, 7 and 8, do require a bit of financial investment from yourself, and I will never tell you to go and do these things as an absolute surefire way to make more money. Because A, that would be pretty irresponsible of me, just because it has worked for me. And if I think about the two things and being brutally honest, if I were to say what are the 4 things that have worked for me, it's freelancing my skills, so option 3. It's regular eBay and car booting over my lifetime, so number 5. It is number 7, which is the side hustling, and it is number 8, which is the reselling / buying and selling. Now, number 7 and definitely number 8 require a financial investment as well as a time investment. And unless you know what you are looking at and you know what you are doing, I would not say jump in on 8, reselling and buying and selling, as the gold ticket to you making money and plugging your gap. However, I also want to talk to you from one adult to another. If you have a niche or a specialism area of interest that you know about, let's say, for example, vintage Star Wars collectible toys from the 1990s, as a super niche, you have a stock because you have collected these things and you have probably got doubles. I'm thinking about my dad here. Okay, and you also know where to get these items for not a lot of money from yourself, and you know how to sell them and get money from them. That is the only circumstance where I would say, yes, set that up and go. Now, what you might do and what you might realise through the virtual of clearing and destashing your own stuff, that, I've all of a sudden clicked that bundles of this go really well, and you walk past your charity shop or you walk past your car boot and you see someone selling them and you know you can turn them and flip them because you've just had experience of them going. That's when I would pick up the odd thing. However, I also again, need to be an adult and speak to you responsibly and say that you do need to track all of your money that you are spending. You need to track all of your income, and you need to set a certain percentage of whatever you're bringing in aside, because you do, up to a certain point, if you are reselling or setting up a side hustle, you do have to declare it to the taxman. I'm not about tax evasion. I'm not about hiding money from the taxman. That's not what this channel is. So, yes, reselling, buying and selling, and side hustles, if you know your niche and you play to your strengths, are a way of getting money in, and are a way, and therefore do need to be included in this structure. But at the same time, you don't get to keep all of your money. You need to cover the cost of the stock that you have purchased, and you also need to make sure that you are paying His Majesty's Revenue and Customs, or the Inland Revenue Service, or whichever is your local tax authority. Are we all clear? Everyone in the back, are we all clear? Good. So those are my recommendations based on things that I have done. And by recommendations, I mean strategies. So just to recap, because it's been half an hour and you have made it through. It's a reduction in wages, loss of job, maternity wage dropping, an increase in bills and costs, or a major life event that's coming up that you can't escape and get out of. Ideally, you would set yourself a target, because again, the financials around this, particularly if we look at a reduction in wages that might be inconsistent due to sickness, or it might be a staggered drop in maternity wage, you might just find it easier to set an overall target rather than there being a bill, a payment, or a set amount that you need to sort out. Are we absolutely going to implement strategies from the immediate I need cash quick group? Yes, but what we might do, instead of going hell for leather and dragging ourselves literally into the mud with this, we're going to spread it out, and we're going to do it alongside, and we're going to pace ourselves with this, because if this generates you money, you might as well do it in a more sustainable way. Look for, first of all, overtime and complementary industry work within the field that you are working at. And then within that as well, can you then freelance your skills? Side jobs, odd jobs, cleaning, gardening, tutoring, DIY. The list, to be fair, is endless. And you will know, based on your community and your area and your environment, what that might be appropriate to do. Regular eBay car booting, regular garage sales, flea sales, yard sales. If you've got tons of stuff and you have jumped on the destashing, cluttering, you've decided to embrace the minimalist lifestyle, you might as well carry on trying to sell your stuff until it's gone. There is a second job, okay? Look for a second job, even if it's only short term. You know, do not burn yourself out. But if you sit there and go, yes, I can take on 8 weeks of summer work working the festival circuit, then go ahead, do it. Can I do 8 weeks of summer camp? Yes, I can go do it. Can I do 8 weeks of gig work or hospitality at the beach seaside hotel? Yes, I'll go do it alongside your normal job, okay? Then finally, we do come to our side hustle time, which is setting up that Etsy eBay shop, or going along to the craft fair and trying to see what happens, and then our reselling / buying and selling business. However, one thing to caveat is that option 7 and 8 do come with financial implications and are not a guaranteed quick money earner. You are sacrificing both time and money in the hope of a greater, more stable return. But worth mentioning, because of that 2 to 4 month average window, which is what I say this is, you might choose to decide to say, actually, I'm going to class upcoming as 6 months, and I'm going to give myself half a year's notice. It's impossible for me to make this list very, very specific, because I'm talking only from my perspective and things that I have done, and my lived life experience is going to be absolutely different to yours. But hopefully there is enough within this that you can pick at and go, well, actually, I get what Nicole's saying and I can apply this to my area, but actually this one's completely useless, so I won't think about it. Tomorrow we're going to talk about long-term changes, because I am, again, also someone who has had to make kind of long-term changes that have hopefully and will hopefully have a positive impact to my income long term. But that in itself is worth discussing, and really going to round up this 3-parter. Yesterday's video was, we obviously talked about the immediate cash in hand. Today we've got our middle, and tomorrow we've got our slightly longer one. And once again, I do just want to say thank you so much for the reception you've given in yesterday's video. Thank you for your comments down below. I hope I've clarified a couple of things, because I know there were a couple of questions in there at the start of this one. And as always, please make sure that you're looking after yourself. Please make sure that you're looking after your mental health. Please make sure as well that you are seeking debt and financial advice if you need it from charities, not companies that want to charge you. That's worth saying. And that you have a support network around you whilst you go through this time of financial insecurity. I'm now going to love you and leave you because I kind of want to cap this video here, and I will see you tomorrow for the roundup to this 3-parter. I hope you have a fantastic week wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye bye for now.